modifying turbocharged cars, there are two components that often come up in discussion. Those, of course, are blow-off valves and diverter valves. Both of these parts play a crucial role in managing the boost pressure within a turbocharged system, but they each have their own specific way that they work and differences between each other. And because of this, it sparked a debate on which option is better for your car and whether or not something like a blow-off valve could actually be bad for your car. So let's talk about it. First things first, let's talk about where these parts came from and how they are actually used in turbocharged cars. The purpose of these valves are to relieve any boost pressure or charged air that would remain in the system when you close off the throttle after being in boost. Back in the day when factory turbocharged cars were finding their way out from the factories into dealership lots and eventually into family homes for the first time, most of them did not feature any sort of blow-off valve or diverter valve. Since these cars were making very low amounts of boost, it just wasn't necessary at the time. However, this would cause an audible phenomenon if you were in the throttle in boost and suddenly you took your foot off the pedal to shift or slow down. Most of us as car enthusiasts know this phenomenon as turbo flutter or compressor surge. Now this is caused when that charged air is being forced back into the turbocharger and hitting the compressor wheel. And even though it does sound really cool and makes some really cool fluttering noises, it's really not the best thing for the turbocharger or performance. This puts extra strain on the compressor wheel and its bearings, which can cause premature wear, as well as it actually just slows down the RPMs of the turbocharger drastically, which leads to lag if you want to get back into boost quickly. The Holden Commodore VL Turbo is actually known for this sound quite a bit, as it did not come equipped with any sort of blow-off valve or diverter valve from the factory, and people got to know that car as such. Again, since these cars were running so low of boost pressures from the factory, it wasn't as big of a deal. However, with more and more vehicles featuring a turbocharger and the common consumer not really wanting any strange noises coming out from the vehicle, we see a majority of the modern factory turbocharged cars equipped with a diverter valve. Now, blow-off valve, diverter valve, they sound like they do the same thing, so what's really the difference? Why the different name? Well, even though they are both essentially solving the same issue, they are entirely different in the way that they operate. When you think about turbocharged 90s or 2000s JDM cars, the sound of a blow-off valve is probably what's going to come to mind. That distinctive psh sound. This is because of the way that the blow-off valve relieves this pressure from the system. It's by releasing it out of the entire system, actually, or into the atmosphere, where a diverter valve functions similarly. However, instead of venting it out into the world and getting the charged air out of the system, it recirculates it back into the system before the turbocharger. Now, blow-off valves, like I said, are going to give you that iconic whoosh sound when the pressure is vented out, whereas the diverter valve will be much more quieter as it's keeping everything contained within the system. So that's why they're there, that's what they do, and the general difference between the two. However, when it comes to modifying these cars, as we tend to do, this is where we see the debate of one versus the other start to come into play. So let's go ahead and knock out some of the common rumors and misconceptions about both blow-off valves and diverter valves. Number one, diverter valves are only for stock cars. While we have become pretty accustomed to hearing the whooshing sound of a blow-off valve in high-performance cars, diverter valves have just as much as a home in these higher horsepower applications as blow-off valves do, and in some cases might even be the better option. Since the air is being managed within the same system instead of vented out to the world, a diverter valve might be the better one to go with, since they are better at maintaining that measured air within the system, allowing for more consistent fuel delivery. In some cases, especially in the Audi and VW world, going with a blow-off valve can cause some issues as far as check engine lights, specifically because of the mass airflow sensor. This is because when a blow-off valve vents all of that air out into the world, it can cause a momentary rich condition within the air-fuel mixture, which trips out that sensor and can cause some issues. Number two, blow-off valves are bad for the engine. Kind of going off of what we just talked about here, blow-off valves are more prone to causing that momentary rich condition, which has led to the argument that going with a blow-off valve is like the worst thing you can do. It can actually harm your engine. The truth here is that it does happen, however, it happens very, very fast and is a minimal amount that you will not see any significant harm. This is typically worked out by having your car properly tuned to your specific setup and to keep that air-fuel ratio right where it needs to be at all times. The whole building is coming down. Sorry, they're currently putting in asphalt, like 5 feet that way. Don't mind that. We're probably gonna continue the video now. And finally, number 3, blow-off valves improve performance more than diverter valves. Now, this is probably the most common argument that is out there between these two, and while blow-off valves help reduce turbo lag by preventing compressor surge, they do not inherently increase horsepower of overall performance. Like, you're not gonna slap one of these on and you're gonna see a bump in horsepower by installing one of these on your car. But what you can expect is better protection for your system and a better response from it. It's also typically not a bad idea to upgrade those stock plastic diverter valves to something like a metal one either. Now, what it all comes down to is that both blow-off valves and diverter valves are essential components in managing the pressure within a turbocharged car. And while they serve similar purposes, their differences in operation, sound, and application make them suitable for different scenarios and preferences for when it comes to modifying your car. Long story short here, it comes down to what you like. I know, it's crazy, right? If you want something that's more consistent, efficient, and a little bit smoother and quieter, a diverter valve or sticking with the diverter valve may be the best option for your car. If you want something that's gonna get the job done, you're gonna get some cool sounds out of it, and you're gonna add a nice little ornament to the underside of your hood, blow-off valve might be for you too. But both can effectively be used for performance if used correctly and upgraded with the rest of your car when you start introducing more parts and, more importantly, more boost into your system. Just like everything else in this hobby, it comes down to what you like. So hopefully this helps clear up some things and helps you feel more confident in modifying your car, which of course you can do at martiniworks.com.